Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. My name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast. This is your first time tuning in. Our network is in its 16th year and is listened to in over 30 countries. I would like to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space with and for you. And today we are bringing together two things that I think often go hand in hand, and that is food and joy. So I had a really lovely interaction with a wonderful young lady yesterday, and it kind of sparked this whole thought process, which we were going to get into anyway, because the series this month is all about joy, and so the fact that sometimes it's a choice whether you want it to be or not, and the idea that it is, even in the darkest moments, there is still something that you can find to bring joy into your life and to find joy in a moment, and that is the choice in and of itself. So when it comes to food, as everyone knows, I am always an advocate of doing what your body needs you to do. And I just had a conversation with a lovely young lady, and when I was her age, I definitely did not give my diet a second thought, right? I don't think she's a teenager essentially. So I don't think a lot of us do at that age. And I know that I would say at my worst was college. I think when I was basically just a human carb dispense, like just a dumpster for carbohydrates. Quiznos subs. My roommate worked at Domino's and would bring home like the world's worst Joey pizza. The sheer volume of beer that I consumed in college. I mean, it was they call it the freshman 15 for a reason. Let's just put it that way. And it's all in good fun. And when you're in your, late teens and early 20s, your body can take a licking and keep on ticking, right? I mean, it's a miracle what the body can actually withstand and support us through our horrible, redundant decision making as we grow and age. So, it was an interesting conversation because I was talking about my diet. I was at a party and I was talking about my diet. And I said, I've given up. And I make this joke myself all the time. And I said, I've given up legumes and dairy and, grains, pasta and bread, which are two of my very favorite things as an Italian, half Italian lady. Thankfully, I don't love rice that much. So that was an easy one for me to let go of. But when I kind of listed them off, a friend of mine who's, my senior, who's a little bit older than me, pipes in, she goes, and joy. And I've made that joy joke about, I think she said happiness. And I've made that joke about joy, that I've given up joy since starting on a paleo diet. I've given up alcohol. The only thing I haven't given up, which we all should, is caffeine, but we got to have something. And I'm sorry, guys. I need my rise mushroom coffee in the morning. I've even backed off of full blown rocket fuel coffee and onto the mushroom coffee. So I think I'm going to take that one as a win. But also, let's be honest and fair. Caffeine is as much an addiction or as much a poison, air quotes for those of you that are listening, in the body as some less argued poisons or, less than desirable things for your body. So I'm going to hold on to my caffeine for now. And if I change my mind at a later date and decide to really give up joy, then I will let you guys know. But to that end, I had this conversation, and she's, I want to say 15, 16. So she's young and sweet and lovely and tenacious. And she was eating, a large, chocolate chip cookie, and it was one of the ones that was homemade, that just had that like fresh out of the oven warmth, breakability, and it was oversized, and it was, it wasn't like a Famous Amos, no shade because I love Famous Amos, but it was a legit chocolate chip cookie, and she was splitting it with these other ladies, and I was just like, looking at it longingly. Of course I was, because it looked delicious, and she was kind of the devil on my shoulder, going, but if you need to live a little, and you need to be happy, and it's so delicious, and look, it's chocolate. We kind of had this back and forth, and I said, yes, and you're not wrong. And yes, I do need to live a little. And yes, I have dark chocolate at home and I will definitely be eating it when I get there. But also, what I said to her was, I made this commitment to myself. This is a commitment, this diet is a commitment that I made to myself. And have I cheated? Yes, of course I've cheated, but I try to limit the cheats because, as I've said in the past and to others, you're only cheating yourself. The only, yes, of course. So I said to this lovely young lady, the only time that I actually don't go grain free is when I go to church because I'm sure their gluten free communion wafers are still probably made of grain. I mean, maybe they're almond flour. I haven't dug that deep, but that I just feel like it's okay. That little bit is okay. And so it's the only time I truly partake in any grain. And I'm okay with it. I haven't had a bad reaction. And I was at a friend's parents' house for Thanksgiving and they made regular mashed potatoes with dairy and I ate those mashed potatoes. So on occasions such as that where there's a reason above just me wanting to, yes, I will make those small exceptions. Sometimes you pay for them, sometimes you don't. It really depends on your body. But as I've always said, the most important thing is to eat for your body. So not everyone needs a paleo diet may not work for a lot of people. Maybe they can't handle or process a large amount of protein. Everybody is different. And I encourage you through a proper nutritionist or, trial and error allergist, depending on how severe you have, any limitations that may come up for you, do your own research. Make sure that you are not putting yourself into a negative circumstance by limiting, because a lot of the diets are going to be limiting. So make sure that you know how much of what to eliminate. And for example, I've always used this as well. Keto for me, very easy to be vegetarian and keto, love cheese. And that's what I said to this beautiful young lady. I said, I miss cheese. Like the one thing, and bread and pasta, but cheese specifically, I love brie. I do love a good brie. So I do miss cheese. And that might be something at some point down the line worth cheating for. But again, you're only cheating yourself. And so when I was keto, it was much better for me, but my body does not respond well to very high fat intake. It just doesn't. And that's me. And whether that is an organ weakness issue, a genetics, whatever it may be, I felt horrible on the keto diet and I kind of never bounced back from it. So everything in moderation with regard to your body, especially if you're working with diets that eliminate. Now, I have said all of these things, and the whole point of this was to talk about foods that bring me joy. And when I talked to her, she's like, but nachos. And I said, yes, nachos. I love nachos. I can't have cheese. So what is my substitute and what food brings me joy? Cassava chips and guacamole. There's still a workaround. There's a workaround that falls within my boundaries, limitations, self-imposed limitations, if you want to call them that. And so that started me thinking about like the list of foods that bring me joy to eat, even in the limited state. And cheese would be at the very top of that list. Cheese, all the way up here, food that brings me joy. And yes, I have eliminated that piece of joy from my life or the current moment. And I will say a lot of there's a really great brand that makes a cashew-based ricotta cheese that is quite good, and you can find substitutes. They're not the same. It's just not the same. So much like a lot of substitutes that claim to be the Beyond Burger, it's great. It's similar. It's not the same. Turkey bacon, it's still a meat product. It's not the same as real bacon. I've had vegan mushroom bacon. It's very much not the same as turkey or regular bacon, but these are the kinds of things that you experiment with on your own nutritional body symbiotic relationship. And again, the whole point of this is and what I said to this young lady was, food ultimately is fuel. Food is, yes, it brings joy. It brings people together. I mean, I come from a Mediterranean, Italian, and Spanish background. Food is culture. Food is it brings family together. It brings friends together. Eating together it's Darwinian in our genes as human beings that we break bread, no pun intended, together. And so, yeah, as I've said before, I'm often the annoying one at the restaurant because I ask a whole bunch of questions and I try to make sure that it's going to suit what I've committed to myself for. And thank you to everyone who has the patience to allow me to do that. But we're talking about foods that bring joy. I argue that while a chocolate chip cookie in that moment would have given me a lot of instant gratification, a lot of immediate joy. There's an element of the breaking of the promise to myself that I think that I know God knows whomever you pray to or believe in or the higher self or the universe or source or whatever you want to call it knows. I know the person who gave me the piece of chocolate chip cookie, she knows. Anyone around me knows. Like, it's not about the ego aspect. It's not about the judgment, but it's not about the peer pressure, the teenage peer pressure. It's about knowing that that commitment to myself is more important than the moment of the cookie. And you can always go back to a moment on the lips, forever on the hips. And yes, I'm not going to say that diet and nutrition and looking good and feeling good are not all part of the same conversation, because they are. And I definitely will say there's an element of wanting to see a positive goal, not just physically, but and when I say physically, I don't mean, let me rephrase, not just externally, but internally. My motivation was not based purely on physical, it was based predominantly on internal fatigue, mainly inflammation, lethargy, discomfort, general sensation of puffiness, for lack of a better term. So I have a very strong suspicion that if I were to fall off the paleo wagon and into a bag of corn chips instead of cassava chips, that I may very well struggle to feel and look the way that I align with. So, to that end, we've mentioned now the top of the list food, cheese. And yes, I have made that sacrifice. But there are other foods that literally bring me joy that I eat on a regular basis. One of those foods I mentioned to the lovely young lady, the avocado. I adore avocados. They are delicious. They are so versatile. When I lived in LA, there was a little market, and I know they're not the only ones that ever did this, but they made avocado chocolate pudding. Did it taste like avocado? No. Did you get a healthy fat and a mix of chocolate? And was it good for you? Yes. And it was delicious. And the texture and consistency was delightful. So any vegetable that can be as at home slathered in vegan ranch dressing and mixed with dark chocolate and provides you health benefits. Yes, okay, it's high calorie, but it's fine. Big win. Looks good, it's beautifully colored, tastes fabulous, is the chameleon. It's the chameleon of foods. And I am absolutely 100% in love with avocados. I would put them right up there next to cheese. I can eat just a straight avocado. I absolutely can. That would be another top list food for me. Another one, similar vein, versatility, delicious, thirst quenching, even cucumber. Love it. When I was growing up, and granted, okay, I can't do the butter or the white bread anymore, but my mom was a huge fan of tea and like high tea and the little tea sandwiches and whatever. And she would make these delicious cucumber butter sandwiches on little, and she would cut up the toast and it was in little triangles and they were absolutely, it was divine. It was divine. And again, with the cucumber, you can use it as in lieu of a chip as a healthier option to shovel. I've done chip shovel episodes in the past to shovel guacamole or some form of avocado in your mouth. And you can put it with butter on a sandwich if that's something that calls to you. It can be used for any and all dips, including hummus, if that's something that you are able to eat. And again, it's versatile. It doesn't taste really like anything, so it's very non descript. I don't know a lot of people that just hate cucumbers. Like, it doesn't elicit strong feelings. But it brings me joy. I love a cucumber. It's a pleasant surprise on a plate because I feel like if you ask for a plate of vegetables at a restaurant because you can't have corn chips or whatever, you always get carrots and celery. Or at least that's been my experience. So when a cucumber comes out, I am very, very happy. It's refreshing, it's hydrating, it's got health and nutrition benefits to it. I again feel like it's a win-win, and it's about versatility. Up at the top of the list, above cucumber, on par with cheese and avocado for me, dark chocolate. Chocolate in general, but dark chocolate specifically. And not like 90% cacao, not the really, or 100%, not the 100% like aggressively dark chocolate, although it's very, very healthy for you. Like 75, you're 75, you're 80%, 60 to 80% dark chocolate has health benefits, tastes delicious, still relatively versatile, although it stands alone. It stands alone as just a wonderful, heartwarming mental stimulation. I mean, it's dark chocolate. If unless you have an allergy to any of the foods that I mentioned, but specifically unless you have an allergy to chocolate, and I feel so bad for people that have an allergy to dark chocolate or chocolate in general. Like that is very, very upsetting to me. To think that there are people that cannot have chocolate in the world. That was when I first went paleo. I went full steam with no coffee and no chocolate because technically you could consider them a bean. They are called cacao beans. They are called coffee beans. So the first, much like the Whole30 plan, the first, I'm going to say it was more than 30 days. It was closer to 3 months. I switched to Earl Grey tea because I could not stand to put some sort of less than dairy creamer in my coffee. I was very regimented with my sugar in the raw, my half and half, and my regular coffee. So on this journey, I couldn't do almond milk and regular coffee because it was just too painful to me as, again, a Spanish Spanish and Italian woman in that way. It was like blasphemy or sacrilege. So I absolutely had to just switch, and I could deal with some sort of lesser creamer in my Earl Grey tea. So that's what I did, and I gave up chocolate, and that was a little bit tough. And I found myself, Googling the actual roots of these plants and finding, oh wait, no, they're seeds. It's okay. Now, will some very strict or diehard like AIP, autoimmune paleo, they're not gonna fly there. But as they are technically seeds, I implemented them right back into the diet at about the 3 month mark, and I have been much, much happier. Including, I love to use dark chocolate nut butters when I have my afternoon banana. So that's my little like pre-workout pick-me-up. And they have sunflower seed butter that comes with chocolate in it. They have Justin's almond butter that comes with chocolate in it. And I know I've seen people talk about who owns and spending money, kind of voting with your wallet, if you will, on different ways that you consume food, and how some large manufacturers have bought out some of these smaller trusted brands. And so a lot of people maybe don't trust the brand so much anymore. But I'm talking about food that brings joy. So when I was little, going back to the Spanish and Italian upbringing that was very, very revolving around food, I remember being in Spain with my family, and my grandma made me, they're essentially crepes with Nutella. Nutella is going to be up on that top list of food. Now, similarly to what I just mentioned, Nutella as a brand, well, anything processed, right? When we're talking, so avocado, cucumber, even 75%, fine. But avocado and cucumber, unprocessed, completely healthy in and of their own rights. Versatility, you can process them, guacamole, obviously, but just perfect as they are. Cacao, chocolate needs some processing. Nut butters in general also need to be processed. So there's an element of a spectrum that I would say. And on that spectrum, regardless of ownership of the company, which does play a part, so I'm not negating it or saying it that it doesn't matter, but I feel like you have the Nutella spectrum, and then you have the Justin spectrum, and the sunflower butter is probably somewhere in the middle. And you can tell by the quality of the oils that they use, the length of the ingredient list. if there's any additional preservatives that are wrapped up in there, which unfortunately I believe Nutella has quite a bit more, than you want. And so that's a big part of the clean eating conversation as well. It does not bring joy. This is the part of the clean eating conversation that kind of sucks the joy right out, because you realize how much goes into making these choices and doing your research and aligning with what works for your body and aligning with what works for you. But chocolate that can go on a spoon with strawberries, with bananas, with fruit, however you enjoy it, top notch, brings joy. Never have I not looked forward to that. So there are ways to bring the joy. Another big joy of mine, again, paleo kind of fence sitter, the potato, the white potato. And sweet potatoes are delightful, but the white potato brings me joy. And in a world where bread has fled my life, where pasta has is a long memory, I do substitute with spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash is not on the list of food that brings me joy. I'm just going to say that. It is on the list of food that you have to work really hard to enjoy, like butternut squash, squashes in general. A little bit challenging to put together. Love them, eat them very regularly. I'm not going to put them on like a joyful top 10 list. I'm just not. They are versatile, they serve a purpose, and they are a wonderful carbohydrate substitute so that you don't wind up inadvertently keto, right? So you want to make sure you're getting some carbohydrates, you want to make sure you're getting some fiber, you want to keep things moving, and you don't want to go, again, moderation. You don't want to go so full-blown protein that you wind up doing some disservice to your kidneys, because that's, again, can be a byproduct. But all of that being said, back to the lovely, versatile, delicious, most nutritious, but versatile, the potato. I was blessed enough to have French fries today. They were air fried, so they weren't even saturated in any sort of skeptical oil, which if you're going to have French fries, that's the way to do it. And they were delicious. When I have a bad day and I have my what used to be a sad sandwich is now a sad salad, and I have my turkey and my shredded iceberg lettuce, nutritionally deficient in every way, and my oregano, my oil and vinegar, just like a sub, like a New Jersey beach sub sandwich. Delicious. Now I just have it without the bread. And I put my bag of chippies directly into that bowl of salad, and it brings me joy, hence the sad sandwich. I used to put the chips on the sandwich, crunch them down, and eat it that way. And that too brought joy. And that was why it was called the sad sandwich, because if you were sad and you ate this, it's hard to be sad whilst experiencing the crunch of a kettle cooked potato chip. I challenge anyone to be sad, to cry, and crunch at the same time. They are, to me, mutually exclusive. And that is why, specifically for me, kettle cooked potato chips. But potato chips, the potato, mashed potatoes, I finally did. Thank goodness for those of you in the processed food world who came up with a wonderful half and half vegan half and half replacement, which is the closest thing which I actually could put in coffee. And it was the closest thing to regular dairy half and half that I've found. And I've made mashed potatoes with it, and they came out fabulous. So there is nothing that you can do to a potato to make it bad. I'm fairly certain. I don't know that I've ever had a bad potato dish. I think, you have to really try hard to limit the exponential value, maybe not nutritional value, but versatility value in the potato. So unlike the squash family, which is a little too much, it's a little bit high effort, low reward. It's there. It's a great sub. I adore it. I'm grateful for it from a diet where I can't have grains. I lean very heavily on squash, but it's not a potato. It's not a white potato, even a sweet potato. They're delicious. They have their place. They are wonderful. Sometimes I actually get specific cravings for sweet potatoes. They're not gonna make a top 10 foods that bring joy list. Maybe even sweet potato chips. It's not the same. It's not the same as a classic. You just can't go wrong. So again, the potato, versatile, not the most nutritionally sound. So again, we're leaning in the chocolate nut butter range of foods that bring joy, but is still technically allowed and not something that I have to kind of fall off the paleo wagon for. And then I'm going to say that the vast majority, and I said just one thing because this came into my mind and I knew that it needed to be shared with you. Cucumbers are also pickles. So for anyone that doesn't love a pickle, I'm sorry for you because they are amazing. They're one of the most wonderful things in the entire world. And they're also cucumber. So again, the versatility factor in these foods that spark joy. Pickles spark joy for me in a big way. I love them. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. So the versatility of some of these vegetables and fruit. So I've mentioned a banana in passing. It's not going to be on the top 10 list for me. It's a again, like squash. It's a crowd pleaser. It gets the job done. Very grateful for a banana. However, strawberries. They happen to be coming into season right now. Again, they're very versatile. You can put them in champagne for those of you that still drink. Um, they go wonderfully with the dark chocolate that we mentioned earlier. They have a host of nutritional benefits. And again, unless you have an allergy, because I know there are actually quite a few people who are allergic to strawberries. They are delicious, nutritious, pretty to look at. Um, Again, I don't know how many people can bite into a fresh strawberry in season and feel sad. It's an experience. That is a specific fruit food experience that it takes when you eat strawberries. Strawberries and whipped cream, strawberries and shortcake. They are strawberry rhubarb pie. Again, things I can't eat, but just the versatility of the strawberry and the way that it can bring joy in a multitude of different forms. Can you tell that I actually really do enjoy food? I really do. I promise. So the strawberry is on the list of foods that bring me joy. The blueberry, not quite the same. I wouldn't call it as an experience the way I would call strawberry an experience because again, it's a whole thing. Think Richard Gere and think Julia Roberts and flossing strawberry seeds out of her teeth and just her little picnic, right? Like it's a strawberry thing. It's a fruit specific thing. They are quintessential, I think is a good word. Blueberries, it's less of an experience, but they are nature's M&Ms, as I like to call them, and due to the vast amount of processing, I mean, there's nothing paleo about an M&M, and my favorite thing in the world, we'll put it up there with cheese, were peanut M&Ms. I mean, they have legumes in them. It's milk chocolate. They're slathered in preservatives and artificial dyes, and talk about processed, but man, do I miss a peanut M&M. So I will add that to the teenage girl side of eat something that brings you joy: chocolate chip cookies, cheese, and peanut M&Ms. She gets a list too. But same size, similar shape. The blueberry, a whole host of health benefits, antioxidants, and the same with strawberries. But blueberries, again, they're very, very versatile. They're very bland. Strawberries and blueberries alike can go into salads. I know almost tons of fruit can go into salads, right? So we're not gonna, again, this is my list. I'm sorry, but it is. So I'm a weird person that doesn't love apples. A lot of people love apples. I'm not a big fan of apples, but apples are wonderful in a salad. Pears too. Blueberries are wonderful in a salad. Blueberries paired with walnuts have even increased health benefits. They can go into trail mixes. They can go into desserts. They can just be eaten as they are. They, again, versatile, delicious. They can go on waffles. I found grain-free waffles that I have in my freezer with blueberries. It's delightful. And they're healthy and nutritious, and they're a lovely color. And I think that when we talk about food and we talk about eating and we talk about meal prep and we talk about, I mentioned it earlier, food is fuel. You know, it's not really pretty or enjoyable necessarily, my protein shake. It gets the job done. It tastes pretty good. I use a matcha collagen in it, and along with dark chocolate protein. Shocking, I know, chocolate protein powder. And it is limited ingredient, so it's not unprocessed, obviously. But you put matcha in with chocolate, and you're getting like a brownish. It's not visually appealing, is my point with my protein shake, and I have that every morning. So, when you talk about food and bringing joy, I think a lot of it, other than the the taste, the smell, the experience of it, right? I believe, and everyone, well, if you follow me and you watch this at all, you know that I don't have children, I have horses. So I would imagine I've seen friends of mine struggle with their children eating things that are not like pasta and chicken fingers or french fries and chicken fingers. But I just think that the inherent beauty in fruits and vegetables, not only the taste, the flavor, the the act. I mean, I'm not a big citrus fruit fan, but the act of peeling a clementine, for example, right? Or if you're old enough to wield a knife, I'm not suggesting children do this, but if like slicing a watermelon, right? Like the similarly to the squash, it's like a labor of love when you're prepping these foods. But watermelon, it's very hydrating. They even have watermelon water because it's so hydrating. You can give it, I believe it's safe for dogs, except for the seeds, remove the seeds. Watermelon is a crowd pleaser. Everybody loves it. I prefer cantaloupe. I would put cantaloupe up there. Again, beautiful color, delicious texture and flavor. But the point is that there is an element of eating, of food preparation, and of food enjoyment, or the joy of cooking, or the joy of enjoying the the food itself, that I think visually, I don't want to say we overlook it because, if you go to a high-end restaurant or if you watch a show like The Bear, right? Like it's obvious that the experience of the food is a whole part of the dining experience. But I want to simplify it and just say talk about, when you're with your friends or your family and you see a charcuterie board, for example, and it's plated so beautifully. If you just look at these fruits and vegetables, they're beautiful as you prepare them, as you rinse them, as you cut them, as you bite into a strawberry with nothing but a rinse. I mean, it's the experience. And that is part of the joy, right? You can, even when eliminating an untold amount of favorite foods, from pasta to sourdough bread to cheese, to cheese. Even when you're talking about that, there is still so much joy to be found in the simple pleasures of biting into a strawberry, of eating an avocado, of having, maybe it's not nachos, maybe it's cassava chips and guacamole, but there's an option for you, right? And I want to I'm gonna end, and I'd rather end on a high note instead of a low note, but because this flew into my mind as something worth sharing. I know I mentioned I believe it's cashew. It might be almond, but the cashew ricotta that is it's a Kite Hill. It's quite good. Again, it's not real ricotta, but it's quite good. The texture is pretty good. And if you're looking for something to take the place on, let's say, a Mediterranean inspired kind of appetizer dish, highly recommend. Now, that being said, there's a local restaurant that I frequent, and my very favorite thing at this restaurant, that before I committed to this choice, because again, joy is a choice and the lack of it is also a choice. This restaurant has an appetizer, which is, I believe, homemade sourdough bread, which, if you're going to have bread, sourdough is probably one of the top ones that you should have. And Thai chili oil mixed with local handmade ricotta. Kind of some of the best food I've ever had. And when I've gone to this restaurant since giving up those things, other people have ordered it and eaten it. And I will say, if I was going to cheat, that is worth cheating for. That dish right there, because of the joy that it would bring me to relive that experience, because it's such an experience. It is delicious. It's a little bit odd to look at because you see the little chilies and the oil over the ricotta. It's not the most, visually stunning, but the flavor's there. And you take the spoon and you put it on the bread and I mean, it's a whole experience. It's a culinary experience. So in honor of the beautiful young woman that sparked this conversation this evening. And I was still going to talk about the foods that brought me joy. I've been thinking about the foods that bring me joy, the mouthwatering foods, all week long. However, I'm so glad that I had that interlude with her and that she inspired, the conversation about like, why not eat the chocolate chip cookie? Chocolate chip cookie, I don't want it bad enough. It's not worth the break in my willpower, in my commitment to myself. And that's what I shared with her. Like, it's like, I made this, like, no one else but me. This is a commitment to myself, and I don't want to break that. That chocolate chip cookie is not enough for me to break it. Thai chili ricotta and sourdough, might be. It's got two of the things that I miss the most. Add a little bit of spice to it, a little bit of ingenuity in the kitchen, and the experience and the knowing of how much I enjoy it. Touche, young lady. That would be one dish that I would break the grip of willpower that I have over my diet. So after having this entire conversation, if you're still here with me, thank you so much. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your time and space with me. And I ask that you please share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast, or check out my website, airsaboveyoga.com. Please also make sure to follow and check out all of my amazing sisters at the Divas That Care Network. And even you can check out some of my episodes, even the one, I believe there's one called Dip Shovels, where I did talk about the versatility of the cucumber in the past. So feel free to give that one a listen. And you can always find us on any of the platforms where you listen to your podcasts: Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, iHeartRadio, Buzzsprout, Amazon, anywhere that you feel guided, you can find us. And so again, I just want to thank you so much for spending your time with me. My name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground Podcast, where every day is a good one.